First Sergeant Leonard Funk should have been terrified. A German MP40 submachine gun was pressed into his stomach. 90 armed soldiers surrounded him. His 4 men knelt in the snow with their hands behind their heads. The mathematics were impossible. 90-1. No backup, no escape. Any rational soldier would surrender. Leonard Funk started laughing. January 29th, 1945, 2:47 in the afternoon, Holzheim, Belgium. First Sergeant Leonard Funk rounds the corner of a farmhouse and stops dead. 90 armed German soldiers. His 4 guards on their knees in the snow, hands behind their heads. These were prisoners 5 minutes ago. Now they're free, armed, organizing an ambush. A German officer strides forward, shoves an MP40 submachine gun into Funk's stomach, screams in German. Funk doesn't speak German. The officer screams louder, face turning purple. Leonard Funk does something inexplicable. He starts laughing. The German officer is thrown completely off balance. This isn't how prisoners behave. They beg, they surrender, they don't laugh. For 3 critical seconds, the German doesn't know what to do. Funk uses those seconds. He reaches for his Thompson. The German thinks Funk is surrendering his weapon. Wrong. Funk swings the muzzle into line and fires. 60 seconds later, 21 Germans are dead. The rest have surrendered again. Leonard Funk stands in a farmyard full of bodies, alive when he should be dead. This actually happened. Nobody knows exactly why Funk laughed. But to understand his choice in that moment, you need to know 3 things. First, who Leonard Funk was before the war made him a killer. Second, what he saw at a place called Malmédy that changed how he thought about surrender. And third, the 60 seconds that followed the laughter. The 60 seconds that earned him the Medal of Honor and made him the most decorated paratrooper of World War II. A man most people have never heard of. Let's start at the beginning. First thing you need to know, who was Leonard Funk before Holzheim? Born August 27, 1916, Braddock Township, Pennsylvania, steel town outside Pittsburgh, 5 foot 5 inches tall, 140 pounds. 1941. Leonard Funk volunteers for the paratroopers. American airborne forces barely exist, jump out of perfectly good aircraft, land behind enemy lines, fight surrounded. It sounds like suicide. Airborne training washes out half the candidates. Funk doesn't wash out. He earns his wings. Company C, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division, June 6, 1944, 1:30 in the morning, D-Day. Funk's C-47 takes flak over Normandy. The plane drops to 400 feet. German tracers tearing holes in the fuselage. Green light. Funk jumps at 400 feet, half the normal altitude. The chute barely has time to deploy. He lands hard. His ankle twists on impact. The pain is white-hot, electric. Every step will be agony for the next 10 days. But he can walk. He can fight. And right now, 40 miles from his drop zone in the dark, that's all that matters. Within hours, he's found 17 lost paratroopers, different units, all looking for leadership. Funk gives it to them. For 10 days, he leads them through German territory, traveling at night, hiding by day, fighting when necessary. He insists on walking point despite his injured ankle, most dangerous position. First to die if they hit an ambush. He's protecting his men. 10 days, 40 miles, 18 men. They link up with Allied forces in mid-June. Every single man survives. Think about that. 10 days behind enemy lines, 40 miles through German territory. Not one casualty. That's who Leonard Funk is. The man who brings people home. Every time. No exceptions. By December 1944, Funk has earned multiple decorations for valor. Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Hearts. Most soldiers who earn even one are considered heroes for life, but Funk barely calls it Tuesday. Because in December 1944, something happens. Something that will make Holzheim inevitable. Malmédy. Second thing you need to know. What changed Leonard Funk's mind about surrender? December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest. The Germans launched their last major offensive. 3 armies, 400,000 men, 1,400 tanks, 1,900 artillery pieces. They crash through American lines, create a bulge 50 miles deep. The Battle of the Bulge. The weather is brutal. Snow, ice, 5 degrees below zero. Men freeze to death in their foxholes. December 17th, one day into the offensive. Near the Bognes crossroads in Belgium, a convoy from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion runs into an SS armored battle group. The Americans are rear echelon troops, artillery observers, radio operators, not equipped to fight tanks. After a brief engagement, they surrender. 113 men, hands up, weapons down. They're herded into a farmer's field. This is supposed to be the end of their war. Prisoners of war, protected by the Geneva Convention. They'll spend months in a prison camp, cold, hungry, bored, but alive. The SS officers confer. A decision is made. Machine guns open fire. The Americans have no cover, no weapons, nowhere to run. Men try to flee. They're cut down in the snow. Men fall wounded. SS soldiers walk among them, finish them with pistol shots to the head. Some Americans play dead. They lie in the snow for hours. German boots walking past them. German voices nearby, laughing. When darkness comes, 43 men crawl away. They make it back to American lines. 84 Americans die in that field. By 3:15 p.m., the killing is over. Bodies frozen in the snow. The news spreads through the American army within hours. The SS is executing prisoners, men who surrendered in good faith, murdered in a field. The psychological impact is immediate. Before Malmédy, the war in Europe had unspoken rules. You surrendered when the situation was hopeless. You were taken prisoner. You survived. After Malmédy, that calculus changes. Some American units pass down unofficial orders. No SS prisoners. The rules are gone. But for the soldiers in the line, the change is deeper, more personal. Surrender is no longer safety. Surrender might be death. Every soldier in the Ardennes hears about Malmédy. Every soldier has to ask themselves a question. If you're surrounded, outnumbered, out of ammunition, do you surrender, or do you fight until you can't fight anymore? Leonard Funk hears about the massacre. He's already seen too much. Normandy, Holland, friends dying in fields and forests across Europe. But this is different. This isn't combat. This isn't soldiers killing soldiers in a firefight. This is murder, execution, men shot down after they'd raised their hands. Something hardens inside Leonard Funk. He makes a decision. He will never surrender to German forces, no matter the odds, no matter the situation. Surrender means death. Fighting means death. Some men choose surrender anyway. Leonard Funk chooses fighting every single time. If he's going to die, he'll die on his feet, not on his knees in a field. That decision is forming in thousands of American soldiers in December 1944. Malmédy creates a psychology of defiance. But for Leonard Funk, that decision will matter sooner than he knows. Because in 6 weeks, he'll round a corner in a Belgian farmhouse and face 90 armed Germans. The mathematics will say, surrender. The rational choice will be surrender. Every instinct toward self-preservation will scream, surrender. But Malmédy has already made that decision for him. Leonard Funk will never surrender, and that decision will save his life. January 29th, 1945, 6 weeks after Malmédy. Company C, 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, receives orders. Take the Belgian village of Holzheim. There's a problem. Company C is under strength. The executive officer is dead. They don't have enough men. First Sergeant Leonard Funk is now acting executive officer. He looks at his roster, clerks, cooks, men who've never fired shots in anger. He thinks about Normandy, about all the men he's brought home. These men aren't ready. He knows it. They know it. He tells them to grab their weapons anyway. You're infantry now, Funk says. We're taking that village. The march to Holzheim is brutal. Waist-deep snow, below freezing, German artillery exploding around them. Funk leads from the front. They reach Holzheim just after dawn. 15 houses, Germans in every one. Funk organizes the assault. His makeshift soldiers follow him house to house. The sound of gunfire echoes off stone walls. Cordite smoke hangs in the frozen air. One German gunner holds out for 20 minutes. Funk's squad flanks the position. The gun goes silent. By early afternoon, Holzheim is secure. 80 German prisoners. 1 American wounded. None killed. Another unit brings in 50 more Germans they've captured nearby. 130 prisoners total. They're corralled in a farmhouse yard. Funk looks at his exhausted men. They've been fighting since dawn. There's still scattered resistance in the village. Houses to clear. Wounded to evacuate. He can only spare 4 guards for the prisoners. Keep them here, Funk tells them. I'll send reinforcements as soon as I can. Funk heads back to clear the last German holdouts. He thinks the hard part is over. He's wrong. While Funk is on the other side of the village, a German patrol approaches the farmhouse. Maybe 15 men, white camouflage capes over their uniforms. In the snow, they look like American troops. They're a reconnaissance unit, cut off from their main force, cold, hungry, desperate. They see their captured comrades in the yard. They see 4 exhausted guards. They see an opportunity. The Germans rush the position, overwhelm the guards in seconds, disarm them, force them to their knees. Then they free the prisoners, 130 German soldiers. They grab weapons from the pile, move quickly. Not all of them are armed. Maybe 90 manage to get rifles or submachine guns before the weapons run out. The German patrol leader gives orders. Position here, set up there, wait for my signal. They know exactly what to do. Attack Company C from the rear. Funk's company is scattered across the village, mopping up, not expecting an attack from behind. If 90 Germans hit them now, it'll be a massacre. The German officer organizes his men, professional, efficient, and that's when everything goes wrong. Leonard Funk walks around the corner. He's returning to check on the prisoners, alone except for one radio operator following 20 feet behind. He's not expecting 90 armed Germans. They're not expecting him either. For one frozen moment, nobody moves. Then the German officer reacts. Third thing you need to know, the 60 seconds that followed. The German officer strides forward, shoves his MP40 submachine gun into Funk's stomach, screams in German. Funk doesn't speak German. The officer screams again, louder, face turning purple, veins bulging in his neck. Funk looks around. 90 Germans, armed, organized, his 4 guards on their knees in the snow. One radio operator frozen in place behind him. The mathematics are impossible. There is no scenario where Leonard Funk wins this fight. He's outnumbered 90-1. The sensible thing is surrender. But 6 weeks ago, at Malmédy, 84 Americans surrendered. They were executed in a field. Leonard Funk has already decided he will never surrender. So he does something the German officer never expects. He starts laughing. The German officer screams louder. What is wrong with this American? Funk laughs harder. He bends over, shoulders shaking, calls out to his men, I don't understand what he's saying. Some of the German soldiers start laughing too. The situation is absurd. Their officer turning purple with rage. This American cackling with a gun in his stomach. The officer is completely thrown off. This isn't how prisoners behave. They beg, they plead, they comply. They don't laugh. Funk wasn't laughing from stress. He wasn't laughing from absurdity. He was laughing because he'd already decided he would never surrender. The German expected fear, begging, compliance. Funk gave him confusion. 3 seconds of confusion. That's all he needed. Funk reaches up toward his Thompson submachine gun, slowly, still appearing to laugh. The German watches. Good. The American is surrendering his weapon. Funk's hand closes around the grip. He begins to unsling it, carefully. The German relaxes slightly. Another prisoner, another trophy. Then Funk moves, and what happens next will last 60 seconds. 60 seconds that change everything. One motion, faster than thought, swings the Thompson down, brings the muzzle into line, squeezes the trigger. The M1A1 Thompson fires 45 caliber rounds at 600 per minute. At close range, each round hits like a sledgehammer. The first burst catches the German officer in the chest. 30 rounds in less than 3 seconds. He's dead before he hits the ground. Funk doesn't stop. Can't stop. The moment he started shooting, he committed. Kill everyone or die himself. No middle ground. He pivots, still firing. The Thompson sprays an arc of lead across the Germans nearest him. Men scream. Men fall. Blood across the snow. Brass casings tumbling through the air, steaming in the cold. The magazine runs dry. 30 rounds gone. This is the moment. A Thompson takes 2 seconds to reload if you're practiced. 2 seconds is forever in a firefight. 2 seconds is enough time for 90 Germans to kill 1 American. Funk yanks the empty magazine out, slams a fresh one in, racks the bolt, keeps shooting, less than a heartbeat. Muscle memory. Thousands of hours of training compressed into one fluid motion. He's screaming at his men. Pick up their weapons! Pick up their weapons! The 4 guards scramble for rifles the dead Germans dropped. Seconds ago, they were prisoners. Now they're fighting for their lives. The Germans are in chaos. Their officer dead. The American who was laughing is now killing them. Nobody gave orders for this. Nobody knows what to do. Some shoot back. Bullets crack past Funk's head. One round kills the radio operator behind him. Funk keeps firing, moving, killing. His guards have weapons now. They're shooting too. The Germans are caught in a crossfire they never expected. 60 seconds. That's all it takes. 21 German soldiers lie dead in the snow. 24 more wounded. The rest throw down their weapons, raise their hands. The prisoners are prisoners again. Leonard Funk stands in the middle of the carnage. Smoke rising from his Thompson, surrounded by bodies. 90-1. He laughed. He fought. He won. He looks down at the German officer, maybe 30 years old, dead in the snow. He looks at the radio operator behind him. 22. Never made it home. He looks at the German soldier to his left, 18 at most, died before he could raise his rifle. Funk would see that boy's face for the next 47 years. That, he says to his men, was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But he's not talking about the Germans. He's talking about himself. The story spreads through the regiment, through the division, through the entire 82nd Airborne. The laughing sergeant, that's what they call him, the man who laughed at 90 Germans. When the Medal of Honor recommendation reaches Washington, nobody questions it. September 5th, 1945, the White House Rose Garden. President Harry Truman places the Medal of Honor around Leonard Funk's neck. 5'5", 140, the smallest man in the room. Truman says, "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States." Think about that. The man who ended World War II. The man who ordered the atomic bombs. The man who could reshape the world with a signature. Looking at a former store clerk from Pennsylvania, saying, "I'd rather be you." The war ends. Funk goes home. He doesn't write a book, doesn't do the lecture circuit, doesn't turn his Medal of Honor into fame. He gets a job with the Veterans Administration, helping other veterans, processing disability claims, cutting through red tape for men who'd given everything. The same quiet, necessary work. For 27 years, Leonard Funk helps veterans. He rises to division chief in Pittsburgh. His wife, Gertrude, stays with him. They have 2 daughters. They live in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. The medals hang in a case somewhere. He never talks about them. When people ask about Holzheim, about the laughing, about the 90 Germans, he shrugs it off. Did what I had to do. That's all he ever says. November 20th, 1992. Braddock Hills, Pennsylvania. Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. dies of cancer, age 76. At his funeral at Arlington National Cemetery, they present Gertrude with a folded flag, the same flag that flew over battlefields from Normandy to the Bulge. They bury him in Section 35, grave 23,734. Among the heroes, at his death, he's the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from the 82nd Airborne in World War II. A fitness center at Fort Liberty is named after him. A highway in Pennsylvania bears his name. Most people have never heard of Leonard Funk. They know Audie Murphy. They know Alvin York. They don't know the short, quiet paratrooper who laughed at 90 Germans. Here's what his story tells us. In war, survival often depends on the ones who keep thinking when everyone else has stopped. At Holzheim, the math was simple. 90-1, surrender or die. Funk chose neither. He chose confusion. He laughed because he'd already decided he would never surrender. Not after Malmédy. Not after seeing what happened to men who raised their hands. The German officer expected fear, expected begging, expected compliance. Funk gave him 3 seconds of confusion. 3 seconds where the German didn't know what to do. And in those 3 seconds, Funk made his move. 60 seconds later, he stood in a field of bodies. Alive when he should be dead. Courage is the choice you make when surrender means death, and fighting means death. The choice to fight anyway. And sometimes, courage sounds like laughter. 90-1. Those were the odds Leonard Funk faced that afternoon in Belgium. He laughed. Not from stress, not from absurdity. He laughed because he'd already made his choice. Never surrender. Never quit. Never stop fighting. He fought. He survived. The Germans never understood why. Maybe Funk didn't fully understand it either. But he lived. 5'5", 140 pounds. The man who laughed at 90 Germans and killed 21 of them in 60 seconds. This is the War Maestro Chronicles. Leonard Funk laughed at 90 armed Germans. For 70 years, people asked why. He laughed because 6 weeks earlier, 84 Americans surrendered at Malmédy. They were executed in a field. Funk had already decided he would never surrender. The German officer expected fear. Funk gave him confusion. 3 seconds, that's all it took. History remembers the action. We remember the choice. If you want stories about the impossible choices that make history, subscribe. Thanks for watching.